In a dynamic, technology-driven world, keeping abreast of advancements for any forward-thinking service provider is key. The Customs and Excise Division, offering essential services to the internal and external stakeholders, is ever keen to assess the effectiveness of its deliverables in an ongoing effort to support economic growth and development while facilitating legitimate trade and travel, revenue generation and collection, and the protection of its borders. With this in mind, the division embarked on a program of reform and modernization almost 2 decades ago. Its aim was to catapult the way Customs does business to the next level of excellence.
The reform and modernization of the Customs and Excise Division dates back to 1993, when partial automation was first introduced through UNCTAD's Asycuda version software 2.7, with plans in 2005 to migrate to a version called Asycuda++, which was the most recent version at the time. This level of automation included the reduction of customs prescribed forms in use at the time from 20 down to 3. And although this version had limited functionality, the main objectives were achieved. The second reform cycle began in 2006 with the focus on improving Trinidad and Tobago's competitiveness.
Asycuda, the automated system for customs data, is but one component of the reform and modernization of the Customs Border Control System, CBCS. Asycuda was developed by the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, UNCTAD, when the latter first set its sights on how to reduce transaction costs while speeding up processes by applying information technology to every link of the trade transaction chain.
Asycuda has been available for countries for more than 30 years now. Asycuda World is the latest release of the software. It's maintained completely by UNCTAD, and it's given to countries that belong to the United Nations system.
Users of Asycuda World continue to testify to the enhanced benefits of the system on their business operations.
We think we certainly have welcomed it because it's a step in the right direction. It makes for easier processing of the documents, faster release of the shipments, and most of the customers are quite happy to be able to get their cargo the same day. We actually have here about 80 to 90% of our import cargo is commercial in nature, and so it's businesses that are bringing in stuff, and they rely on fast turnaround in order to get their cargo right away.
Asycuda module allows for electronic submission of customs documents. What this has done, it has radically changed the whole landscape of customs procedures, and more so the time with which we are able to access documents for clearance. In the past, before we had the Asycuda and the self-assessment module more so, it took us 4 to 5 days to have our documents processed at the customs long rooms. With the Asycuda module, we are able to do this in real time because it is something like an email. I send to the customs my information. I myself do the assessment, and then I print my assessment and I go and pay.
The self-assessment component of the Asycuda World system, introduced recently, has in fact revolutionized customs processing.
From my aspect of clearing transshipment spares through the Asycuda system, it has now become a lot faster and easier just because of the new self-assessment system. Basically, the comptroller has allowed you to upload the information and basically authorize yourself for what you've done. Now, Customs, the Asycuda system, would do a post-audit on your entry just to make sure that everything's fine. So that has also extremely beneficial to us.
Asycuda World makes available quality information for decision making and facilitates more concise statistical data on trade in a timely manner. Even more exciting is the fact that Asycuda reduces cost outputs so that savings can be passed on to customers.
One of the major benefits to the customer is having to quantify cost of a container sitting on the port. That is where the big challenge is. Administrative costs like rent and demurrage is minimal, and other related congestion costs is minimal in comparison to the cost of a container sitting on the docks. That goods, maybe worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, can be on the shelves of supermarkets and businesses, turning over, making money, thereby reducing the cost of business and actually promoting business in Trinidad and Tobago. I have a specialized software for preparing customs declarations loaded on my desktop. I am therefore able to upload all such declarations to the Customs Border Control System at any time, since the system is available to me 24/7. This declaration, for example, consists of 95 items. Approval is obtained within 20 minutes.
The government of Trinidad and Tobago has invested some $20 million in this aspect of the Customs and Excise Reform and Modernization program. So just what are its strategic objectives?
As part of the division's reform of its compliance management strategy, we identified the following strategic objectives as part of its modernization. The first is to improve the level of voluntary compliance. Secondly, to increase revenue collection. 3, to facilitate legitimate trade. And 4, to minimize the cost of doing business in Trinidad and Tobago. These objectives we anticipate will be achieved within the context of this comprehensive reform of the division's compliance management strategy, the core elements of which are risk reduction, achieving measurable results, and coordinated border management. We have established for the first time a performance monitoring and evaluation mechanism based on the World Bank Customs Assessment Trade Toolkit methodology. At this stage, we'll be measuring performance in 4 areas: trade facilitation, effectiveness, control, and efficiency. The indicators set out in the slide under the heading Trade Facilitation. We will be measuring our ability to make our customers' tasks simple and easy. On the next slide, with the heading Effectiveness, we'll be measuring whether the reformed objectives have been achieved. On the next slide, headed Control, we'll be measuring our ability to enforce compliance with the customs laws. And the last slide will be measuring our efficiency, where we will be measuring our ability to achieve cost-effective results and the document processing and inspection and release times.
While UNCTAD's ongoing commitment to the process signals an even brighter future for the Customs and Excise Division.
UNCTAD continues to be committed to assist the Customs and Excise Division in reforming and modernizing its processes and bringing more automation. We believe that Customs Administration should always be on a reform and modernization mode.
Asycuda World, providing state-of-the-art institutional strengthening of Trinidad and Tobago's Customs and Excise Division through First World reform and modernization.